Dave in shortly. As we continue our discussion for this week, we're going to focus on financial health. So the topic for this week is going to be you and your finances. And as you saw in the invite, David Young, a CPA here in Rochester. He's a partner in Young and Company CPAs LLP, and he's going to join us shortly. Dave and I have been friends for a very long time. So let's see here. Here he is. So I'm going to bring him in. Hey, Dave, welcome.
Hey there. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you well. Welcome to Pause Break 30. How are you, Dave?
Oh, I'm doing well. I got all the technology working. I'm ready to roll.
All right. All right. As I was saying, I introduced you as being the key man at Young and Company.
Yep.
Here in Rochester. CPA is one of the partners. And just for transparency, Dave is a friend of mine. I've known Dave for years and years. I can't say how many years because then it'll tell my age and Dave's age. And I'm okay with my age, but I'm not sure if Dave is okay with his age. But Dave and I go back from college days, and I've seen Dave from back in college. He spent how many years in the military, Dave?
28 years.
28 years in the military, and you retired as what rank? Lieutenant Colonel. All right. So, Dave, again, welcome, and I want to thank you because I know this is your busy time, your tax time, and you're taking time out of your busy schedule to give us some tips on how do we manage our finances. So to start off, Dave, just give us a brief summary of you and your company, what you do, and then we'll move on to the other questions that I have.
Well, we're a CPA firm. We have an office here in Brockport, a small office in Brockport, and our major office our bigger office is in Rochester on Jefferson Road. It's my wife and I are the partners. We've been in business now. I think we're going on year 23 right now. So we've been at it quite a while on our own, running our CPA firm. Our focus is really small and medium-sized businesses. As you mentioned, we are in tax season take two. This is the first time the IRS has extended the due date really in the time we've been in practice. So it's a unique time to have a CPA firm, that's for sure. But our main focus is taking care of people's individual income tax and business tax, keeping clients compliant with the law and having them pay the least amount of tax required by law.
Awesome, Dave. Good. Thanks for that. So as we go through being a partner in your own firm, a CPA, and dealing with finances, Dave, what is your typical day of a CPA and a financial guru?
Well, it depends on if it's during tax season. Those days can become very long. Starting off early in the morning, maybe you're checking your email to client interviews throughout the day. And at night, you're primarily, getting the tax returns done. I have a great staff that works with me. So I'm very blessed to have a really good group of people working in the firm. So they actually take care of most of the heavy lifting during tax season. I'm really interviewing clients. So this year it's changed quite a bit from our traditional tax season. But traditionally, we're in at least tax season time frame where a lot of interviews with clients, getting their information in, and getting those tax returns processed as quickly and accurately as possible. During non-tax season, it's more of a focus in on financial statements, write-up, which is bookkeeping, the monthly work we do for the clients to keep the clients on track so the clients can focus in on their own practices and their own businesses, and we're helping them behind the scenes get their numbers all squared away.
Okay, so for tax season, how many hours a day do you work normally?
Well, tax season is going to be typically, probably 16 hours a day, maybe more, at least. Pretty much if you're awake, you're working. So, pretty much the whole day, other than maybe your drive into the office and back when you have a little bit of respite when you're not actually working, but you're during the day, all day, and well into the early times that or late at night. I can remember coming home from the office at 2:33 in the morning and getting back to work by 9:30. Usually my first stop's the Brockport office to pick up information and then drop off information and off into the Rochester office. So it's typically a long day during tax season, and then it's usually at least 6 days a week like that, and maybe Sundays I take off, go to church, and then after church, right back to work.
Wow. Definitely busy. And I imagine now with COVID-19, things might have shifted for you somewhat. What's the difference between a typical tax season and now with COVID-19?
So now it was a lot different. It was a lot of fits and starts, I guess I would call it. So we didn't know what the rules were because we really couldn't get, good clarity, or the information we're getting was a bit contradictory. So you didn't know if at first, are we essential business, non-essential business? You had to reduce your footprint. You couldn't see clients anymore. So the biggest change is that we allowed the people who could work, get the people who could work from home, working from home. We tried it. We did not try. We did implement all the social distancing. So we no longer can see clients face to face. Most of our meetings now, where the clients would mail in their information or use our portal system, and we'd use a Zoom meeting to go over the tax return with them, or a phone call, and in the reverse, getting it out. So whereas clients would come in and pick up, now the clients have an option of we can put it on the portal, their tax returns, and they can download them and sign the documents and put them back on the portal. We can go over the tax returns with them there, or we can mail them the tax returns. So it's been a big shift. Thankfully, we had the technology, and I had a great staff that was able to change how we did business on a dime. It was changing, really, it's some days back in March, it was changing almost minute by minute. Oh, this is what you have to do. Nope, this is what you have to do. So it was a lot of adapting, improvising, and overcoming. And now we're getting, ready for the new tax deadline, July 15th, and getting the tax returns out as quickly as we can. We see ourselves as essential because we're the lifeline for some of these clients to get them their stimulus checks, to help them have the information on the different programs out there. There's a program called the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, which will get some of these businesses back up and running. So we've been busier now than we've ever been in any tax season in the past. It's just been a unique way how it's happening.
Sure. Again, we are on with Dave Young. He is CPA partner of Young and Company CPAs LLP in Rochester, New York. If you have any questions for Dave, just hit the comment box and post your comments there. Go ahead and share and like our broadcast as well. Set up if you want to have to host a party, go ahead and do that, and we appreciate it very much. Dave, with the entire world shut down because of COVID and many people out of work and businesses closed, what are some of the financial tips that you can give to, first, small businesses, and then second, individuals?
Well, really, you need to know, for the businesses, you have to understand what programs are out there. There are a myriad of programs out there that you can avail yourself of, and you need to understand which program would be best for you and which kind of business, what kind of business are you. So one of the things that's been a lot in the news, it's unique, is this paycheck protection program, which basically allowing small businesses, and small is pretty big by our standard. It's like 500 or less employees. So that's a pretty big business in many cases. And that's a program where you can, in essence, borrow money. It's going to be administered through the bank. So your bank will administer that program. The monies come from the SBA, and they'll give you money for payroll, up to 8 weeks of payroll, rent, utilities. And that's including you, the business owner, and if you have a partner or 2 or 3 people that own the business, you can be on payroll. In the end of those 8 weeks, the 8 weeks of payroll would be forgiven. So it would be, in essence, turn into a grant. So that's a very big way to jumpstart, your business. Take your employees, if they're on unemployment, get them off unemployment. That program, the first wave of financing, has run out. So that was roughly $349 billion with a B. That money went quickly. That money was spent out within about 9 days. So there's been a second tranche of financing, or money's coming through, and that will start hitting quickly. The banks are now getting geared up for a second round. So many people did not get the financing in the first round, and those businesses need to stay on top of their banks to make sure their applications are in their process to get financed in the second tranche. And if you haven't started that process, you need to contact your bank immediately to get that going. Now, some smaller businesses might be better off maybe just collecting unemployment. So if you're a one-man business, maybe you're a photographer for weddings. Well, there's not a lot of weddings going on. Maybe you'd be better off collecting unemployment. It's the first time in history where a person who's self-employed could go ahead and put in an unemployment claim. So that's something to consider. The other thing, one more thing to consider is you could take money out of your IRA without a penalty up to $100,000 and use that money. You pay taxes on it, but over 3 years. So you would, start paying in 2020, 21, and 22, borrow up to 100K out of your take 100K out of your 401K or IRA and use that for your business. Now, that might be your last chance. I would probably do that one last, because now you won't have that money for retirement, and the PPP program could be really a way for a bigger small business to get, in essence, forgiveness on the monies they borrow. So that would probably be my first option if I was a small business.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dave. Well, what about for individuals, employees, individuals themselves? And think about this, Dave, is that this broadcast is international in its scope. So we have people from all over. But what about individuals who are not working? What can they do from a budgetary standpoint?
Yeah. So for US-based people, if you're an individual and your income's going to be down this year, this could be an ideal time to do a Roth conversion. Obviously, your income's going to be down, so you could convert monies from your traditional IRA and move them into a Roth IRA, and then basically pay very little or maybe no tax on that. So that's something for your U.S.-based audience. Non-U.S.-based audience, this might be a good time to take a pause and really look at your own self, your financial situation yourself, your business or your individual. Are you doing everything you can correctly? Use this time to better your financial self. Are you doing everything you could? Are you prepared for this? What could you do better? In the Army, we'd call that like an after action review. Get yourself ready. And if you're, a business owner, this is the time, if you are in pause and you are not working in your business right now, you really need to be prepared to start embracing technology, because this is probably going to be the new normal. So you probably need to have systems in place where you have good computer security. That's regardless of COVID or not. But in addition to that, you're going to lay on top of that how are you going to use the technology for, say, teleconferencing, whether that's Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, or whatever your flavor of reaching out to your employees and your client base. You need to make sure you have a system, because when we start going back to work, it's not going to probably be turned on real quick. It's going to be a slow return, and there's going to be a lot of new norms that we need to get our minds around. So if I was a business owner, I'd be working on my business, because you're not going to have the opportunity to work in your business. And if I was an individual, I'd use this time to brush up on all my financial literacy. This is the time to make sure you're doing everything right. You have some time now, so take the time, maybe less time on Netflix and more time on investing in yourself and in getting your financial literacy where it needs to be.
That's good, Dave. Great advice. But let's take the next question. And we know with everything shut down, as I said, what advice and strategies can you give to those that are challenged or struggling in paying their mortgages or rents, or even paying their bills?
So the number one thing is communication. You must communicate with whomever. So if it's your mortgage company and all of a sudden, let's say you find yourself unemployed and your unemployment check hasn't arrived yet, and or the mortgage or whomever, the number one thing that you owe it to them is to reach out to them and explain the situation. I think more times than not, they're going to understand the situation. This is not an isolated situation. It's something that's happening all over the world to everybody, all at the same time. So my number one advice in that regard would be to communicate. Make sure your landlord knows, or maybe if the rent, you can't pay all the rent, as an example, maybe there's an opportunity to pay part of the rent. Ultimately, the rent's going to be due there's a moratorium, at least in New York State, on any clients being either foreclosed on or evicted, either way, because there's no real courts going on right now. But in the meanwhile, you will owe the rent. So you need to communicate with your vendor or your credit card company, the mortgage company, the landlord, what's going on. I think that's number one. Communicate.
Okay. All right, Dave. Good. Let's look at, so you said earlier that the tax deadline in the US is extended. It was April 15th, but because of COVID, it's extended to when?
July 15th. So
July
here's
15th.
something you have to keep in mind. So that's the IRS deadline. Each state is different. So if you're here in New York State, it's also July 15th, but other states may not have followed the federal. So you're going to have to be careful as to what state you're in and look up on your state's website what's the deadline for whatever state you're in. And now what's really unique about this opportunity with the deadline shifting is it also means your quarterly estimated tax payments has shifted. So what was due June 15th is now also July 15th. But U.S. tax code allows you to actually file an extension beyond July 15th to October 15th to file, but you must pay everything you owe, both the federal and the state government, at least New York State, by July 15th. So keep that in mind. It's very, very important that you understand that the July 15th is filing and paying. It's important to remember.
Okay, good. Also, let's stay in the U.S. here for a minute. We've heard about the stimulus checks. We've heard about things that we're supposed. Some people are getting their checks, some people aren't. So,
I take multiple calls on this topic every day, and it would be helpful if the government could come up with one unified message. Meaning, last Wednesday they started the process of sending out the stimulus checks. That's start, not to mean that everybody last Wednesday got their stimulus checks. So I think that was part of the miscommunication on the federal side. Now, also, it's based on the 2018 filing if you haven't filed your 2019 tax return. So, but you would have had to file the 2018 income tax return in order to get your stimulus for the 19. So assuming you haven't filed either, you're not going to get the stimulus at all. And there's thresholds. So if you're single, meaning you're not married, the threshold is say 75,000. So above that, it starts to get phased out up to 99,000. So if you're a single person and you make less than 75,000, you're going to get a $1,200 stimulus package. If you're married, it doubles to 150 and 198. And if you're head of household, meaning like it's yourself, you're not married, you might not be married, you're taking care of a child, then the phase out started at $112,500 and go up to $136,500. Okay. The other unique thing about the stimulus package that has caused a lot of confusion is you get $500 per child. Child is defined as children that are less than 16. So if you have children who are living in your house, college kids or maybe older high school kids, you're not going to get the $500 for those kids at all. So keep that in mind, that if you got younger kids, you're fine. Older kids is 17 or older, you're not going to get that $500. And it's going to be a direct deposit, assuming the IRS has your bank account information on file. If not, you're going to get a check.
And how long does a check take?
That's another unique thing. It's going to take a long time, a number of weeks. So whereas the direct deposit should come pretty timely, and also oddly enough, even though let's say you owe the IRS and in the past you paid the IRS via ACH, meaning coming out of your account, so getting sucked. Even though the IRS is taking money out of your account, they're saying that's not good enough. We'll still send you a paper check. So even though in theory they do have your bank account information because they took the money out of your account,
sure.
This is only for people. So in essence, you would have had to do a refund in 18 or 19 in order for you to get that deposit into your account.
Okay, let's talk about two additional things, Dave. We have about 9 minutes left. Can you talk quickly about creating a budget and what's important about creating a budget? I know money's tight for everyone these days, but I still think it's important for us to, as you mentioned, to have some kind of literacy, knowledge about money and budgets. What are the key components of a budget?
So the biggest thing with a budget is to be realistic. Like there's the ideal budget with pie in the sky, but let's one of the easiest things to do in today's world is most everything you're doing is going to be, you're not spending a lot of people aren't spending a lot of cash. So everything coming in out of your budget already is probably going through a debit card or a credit card. And you could go historically, so go back a number of months and get an idea of how much money's coming in your house every month and how much money is going out. Now, we live in a unique time given that we're having a pandemic right now. So now I think people's budgets may change dramatically because now you may have less money coming in, although you probably have a lot less money going out considering we can't really go out to restaurants. A lot of businesses are closed and you're not really able to go there. But I would take this time to really look at all the money that used to be going out pre-pandemic, because once things get turned back on, you're really going to need to know what are need to have things, i.e. going grocery shopping. I think most groceries would be in the definitely you need to have, and then maybe there's going to be a lot of things that are nice to have, but you can't afford to have. But you definitely need to do a budget, and you need to pay yourself first in this budget. So that means like saving money. This is not, I mean, hopefully this was a good reminder, hey, emergencies do happen and they're obviously not predicted. So you need to have some money set aside for emergencies, i.e. the one we're living through now. And you need to have money set aside for retirement. So you really need to have a budget that also requires you to put something, at least 15% as a ballpark number, into your, your employer's plan, whether it's a 401k or a 403b. You need to be saving money because at some point you're going to want to retire, and Social Security was never meant to be, your full retirement. It's just one leg of the stool. So I would definitely recommend being realistic, paying yourself first, and having, want to have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses set aside, depending on your financial situation. If you have 2 earners in the house, maybe you can go 3 months, because hopefully both people don't lose their jobs. But here we are. In many cases, both people have lost their jobs. So you never really know what's going to happen.
And I'm sure that you're seeing on the front line of finances that you're seeing the pain of this.
Oh yeah,
COVID-19 with individuals, right?
Pain and it's fear, uncertainty. Mm-hmm. A lot of it's a lot of times you'll see, say, businesses, they'll lose some customers here and there. That's normal, par for the course. But you don't usually go from a couple $100,000 in sales to zero all at one time, and while maintaining all those expenses, so that you still have the rent, utilities, overhead, employees. Sure. So a lot of businesses really took a severe beating and are currently taking a severe beating. So the businesses right now, if you're a business owner, really need to understand what the programs are. If you're an individual, you really need to take this time, do a pause, and get yourself financially literate and have a solid, realistic budget that can be flexed as need be.
Right. So this time should be one of preparation. I know our pastor last week, he said in terms of taking the time to prepare, using this time or this pause as part of preparation so that when we come out of it, you're set to go.
That's right. You would be you should use this time very wisely, because it's going to be probably, hopefully, this never happens again, but you're given an opportunity. Oftentimes now you have this time to prepare and prepare yourself to be a better person, because once life gets back to normal, it's easy to put that on the shelf and not get back to it. So sure. I would definitely use this time wisely.
All right, Dave. I know you are one of our speakers at our man-to-man conference that's coming up. We have a date, a reset date, but we're not going to announce it yet. We'll announce it probably in June. Mm-hmm. And your topic is Know Your Numbers. In about a minute and a half, tell us a brief overview of what you'll be presenting at our men's conference.
Okay, so know your numbers is really, it's almost like driving a car. Like it would be hard for anyone to drive a car and not be able to look at their speedometer, odometer, and understand it. So I'm going to help people build the dashboard so they can have some idea of where they stand. So that's backwards looking. So, explain to people, hey, these are financial statements. These are how you build financial statements. But more importantly, you can take those financial statements and then use those as a tool to look forward. So now you'll have, if you've got a couple of years of good financials, you can start seeing trends. And hey, this is where we are in this particular month, or here's where we are when these things happen. So you as a business owner have an idea of not only where you've been, but where you're going. And you can use that information to, to reduce your income tax liability, to make really smart decisions and help grow your business, to help people work on their business, take a step back from their business and really build a really good dashboard. Key performance indicators is what sometimes people call them. So you have an idea of what goes into financial statements, what do they mean, how to read them, what the bank looks for, what the IRS looks for, what you as a business owner should look for. That's one set of things. We'll talk about budgeting, as you already mentioned earlier. A business should have a budget, individuals should have a budget, but then looking at these numbers and going forward, and how can you, if I change this input here, what's the impact on the outside? What's the impact down the road? Those are the things I want to help business owners build a way to do that. And you can build a lot of it with some very basic software that's really already out there. And you just have to be able to understand how to use the software, how to read the financial statements, and how to manipulate the data so you can make some inputs, export everything to Excel as an example, and then what happens if I do this, what happens if I do that. And that's what I'm going to tell people how to do. Okay, great. And again, that is for our men's conference, our man-to-man, the candidate conversation conference that was scheduled for this month. We've postponed it for a later date in 2020. And we will get that information out to you as soon as we hear and from our local and national authorities as to when we can come out of this COVID-19 and isolation and quarantine. So we'll get that information out later on, probably in June. Dave, I want to thank you so very much for taking your valued time to speak to us. If someone wants more information about Young & Company or the services that you offer, how can they contact you, Dave? Yeah, I think there's a couple easy ways. You can just go to my website, youngandcompany.net, and from there you can send me an email, or you could even give me a call, 585-427-0210, and I'm extension 112, but any of my staff can help. We're here to help people. Where I want to make sure that people understand that, even that first consultation, there's no cost at all. We're helping our clients through the whole PPP programs, and we're not charging them at all. We're just helping our clients in a time of need, and we want to be there for our clients at any time. And we'll be here for anybody who has questions. Just go to our website, give me a call. You can shoot me an email at dyoung@youngandcompany.net, and I will get back to you, and I'll be there to help you out. Again, it's Dave Young, CPA partner of Young & Company CPAs, LLP in Rochester, New York. So if you want to give him a call or send him an email to see if he can help you with your finances, I'm sure that he can. He'll be happy to. Dave, thanks once again. Say hi to your crew and Julie and family. And we want to say be safe and be healthy, okay? Well, thank you so much for having me on. And if anyone ever needs me, you know how to reach out to me now. Awesome. Thanks, Dave. For our viewers, I'd like to thank you for viewing this portion of Pause Break 30. Again, we meet here every Thursday during this time of isolation and quarantine. We meet every Thursday at 7:30. If you're viewing it live, if you're viewing it recorded, you can view it either on Facebook or on YouTube. We'll be happy to hear from you. Give us some comments. We'll see you next week. And we want to hear what topics you like for us to cover in the coming weeks. So send me some comments, post and like, and invite others to view the show. Again, thank you very much. And we bid you good night, safety, and good health. And may God continue to bless you and your family. Good night now. Good night.